Hey there, anime fan members all around. Welcome, welcome, and open seasons, everybody. And you might be wondering, but you're doing this on the gaming channel, Al. What's going on? Well, I'm deciding to try to merge the anime and gaming channel all together into one. So, yes, that means that I'll have essentially two different outros, two different intros for the same channel just for different video types, if that makes sense. So anyways, I wanted to talk about My Hero Academia, and the reason why by the way, the reason why I'm doing it on my gaming channel and not on my anime fan club channel right now is because that requires for me to log out of OBS and then log back into OBS. And although that's simple and easy thing to do, because hold on a second. Let me. There we go. Okay. So, what I wanted to do was, I wanted to make it easier, essentially. I wanted to make it a little easier, so that way I don't have to worry about, like, logging out, logging back in. I mean, that's easy. That's just a click and then another click. That's essentially two clicks. That's all I'm doing, and the reason why my webcam I didn't realize this in my last live stream. Well, last two live streams really. But I didn't realize this, but my head cam, my webcam, uh was a little too big in one of my live streams, and I didn't realize it till I went back and saw it. So I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry that my webcam was basically too big. It was blocking some of the gameplay elements of it, especially in the Sims video. And I just I didn't realize it at the time. But now I know. So whenever I am gaming on this channel, I will try to keep my webcam smaller. I will try. I'm used to talking like this with like my webcam being this size, and because I use this OBS for anime fan club channel and my gaming channel, and for all other things. So that's why I'm so used to having my webcam being this large and not like so small. So if I'm ever live streaming and gaming and my webcam is too big, you can say in the comments if you're watching then and there and I'm live streaming, you can say in the comments, "Hey, webcam's too big," and then I'll fix it. But I just wanted to say that because I wanted to put that out there because I didn't realize that was an issue until I went back in and I saw it. And the best part of the video was blocked because of my webcam, and I feel bad. But okay, anyways, enough about that because I did say that I wanted to get into My Hero Academia right now because that is my number one top pick for anime as of right now, as it's trending. So and I wanted to go over my predictions. I got the volume today. The volume's been out for like a month by now. And I'm sure everyone has probably read it and everyone probably is already caught up on it as the actions of this. I mean, there's 7 seasons out. 6 seasons in Funimation, 7 seasons that may be under current development as we speak. But that's besides that. There are 6 watchable seasons. That's all I was trying to say. Um, and I watched the anime up to like the middle part of like season 6. I didn't watch all of season 6, and for a reason. Yes, I read the manga, and yes, I'm caught up on that end. But there's a reason why I had basically put down the My Hero Academia anime, and that's not for a bad reason. It's actually for a good reason. I wanted to put it down so that way I could pick it back up again and then have some reaction videos to it because I mean, it's trending right now. It's like, hey, it's the the hottest pick of anime besides maybe One Piece, and everyone's watching it, so everyone would want to see my reaction to My Hero Academia because it's trending, it's popular, it's good, you know? So, and once that I have the views, the fans, they will definitely would be, asking, hey, what's your thoughts on My Hero Academia? What's your thoughts on the newest volume, newest season, And I want my reaction out there so that way y'all can just watch it for yourselves and see it instead of having to come ask me, you know? Anyways, so My Hero Academia, I got volume 35. I'm trying not to show it because I don't want to get in trouble for copyright. But yeah, I got the volumes, and there are some things that I wanted to go over. Now, I said predictions. I said predictions like a minute ago, 5 minutes ago. The title of the video, although it doesn't have a description yet again, um, but the title of the video says predictions for My Hero Academia, Volume 35. Yes, that's what I wanted to go over essentially. Um, before I went off into a tangent. Um, Now there are some things that's going to kind of like overlap with my other video that's on my anime fan club channel right now as we speak. Like the other thing, it's on my anime fan club channel. There's a video I made that's titled All Might's Death is Maybe Coming with a question mark. And yes, that is a prediction I have for volume 35. I wanted to get into further depths and further details than I did in that video. That video was like, because I didn't have a lot of thought into All Might's death in that video specifically because I I didn't have a lot of info to go off of. And yes, sure, I still have the same info now as I did back then. So why is this any different? The only thing that happened is there was time in between that video and now. And I spent a lot of time thinking. Like a lot of time thinking. And I think we can kind of go over why I think All Might's gonna die in volume 35. Now, he may not die in volume 35. He might die volume 36 or 37, maybe 38. Capped 37, I would think, would be like his sunsets as a character, if you will, if you get my drift there. Um, then that was a metaphor that I was speaking, meaning like All Might's death. Because I mean I mentioned that a lot in my All Might's gonna die or All Might's death coming soon video in my anime fan club channel. Mentioned that. I mentioned that, and like what I was going off of was the anime itself. I wasn't really going off of the manga so much so as I was going off on the anime. And that's another reason why I had little details to go off of. But the manga and the anime for My Hero Academia, and I imagine for any or all animes out there, is pretty much one and the same. Like it's pretty much just copy and paste with a few subtle minor details here and there that you might as well just not care to notice unless you're a diehard manga fan, you know? Um, but yeah, and that's all I was going off on that tangent about. But anyways, so what I was going off of on that video specifically, I mentioned Sir Night Eye's predictions for All Might All Might's death. And the reason why I went off on that is because I mean it's a reoccurring theme in My Hero Academia. Like during like the festival, like All Might gives Midoriya kind of the silent treatment when Midoriya asks him, "Hey, when I beat this All for One, will you be there for me?" And there's that silence. That scene in particular, I got All Might non-verbally saying, "I'm going to die," because that's what I got as a fan watching it. And then they discussed it later, like they discussed it again, like because like that's a reoccurring, it appears to be a reoccurring theme of, because Sir Nadai mentioned it in the flashback when they were fighting, and then Midoriya came back, and I've already discussed this in my video, but Midoriya came back and asked All Might, "Hey," like these questions, like, "Hey, why is Sir Nadai reject me?" Because that's the best way I can put it in words. He didn't say it like that in the anime, but that's the best. I'm reiterating it essentially. So that's what Midoriya goes back to All Might, asking him that, and then All Might's like, "Oh well, now I had to talk about this." Again, that's me reiterating it. Um, but so then they go into that discussion, and I've already supported this. I've already said this and stated this in my other video in my other channel, that I might be just merging two and two together. And there's something that I kind of forgot to mention in that video, that now I'm bringing up in my head now that I'm thinking about it, and that's this one scene in My Hero Academia. It's either in season 4, season 5. It's somewhere in there. I don't exactly remember where in My Hero Academia it's in. Like the scene that I'm thinking of is in, because it is spoilers. But it's to note spoilers. It's interesting spoilers because it is on topic of All Might's gonna die. And that's when All Might visits All for One in the jail, in the prison. They have this conversation, and I I didn't realize this before. All for One says something in a response to All Might saying something. He says a statement. It was pity, sarcasm, um, but it was kind of like a mean statement of because I mean, All for One is the villain, after all, and like All Might's like, "Hey, you're gonna be stuck here all for all these times," you know. And he said that while he was leaving, and All for One said something in response to All Might just as he left the door. And that is that is a thing in anime, that is a thing in movies, that is a thing in books and stories of all kind, when a character says something that is for the audience. So that was tipping off the audience members that, hey, All Might die, because I definitely got that. I definitely got that message um across, from seeing that, for seeing that scene. So that is something that I did not discuss in my video, but I'm discussing it now because I'm putting a pin on it, because I'm going to go on and talk about the manga now, because this is now going to be part 2. We discussed part 1, this is part 2 of my predictions of, well, I mean, I have a lot more predictions. I have a lot more predictions than just that. Don't, no worries, okay? I have predictions, and I got things that were spoiled for me. Please don't spoil anything for me. I mean, I know I'm spoiling things. because I'm talking about it. But if you're caught up on it, how can you call it spoilers? But okay, never mind. So I don't mean to be a hypocrite here. It's just um. Anyway, so like I'm reading this volume, the volume 34. I'm reading it, at the very tail end. And Midoriya has this plan. He has this plan because stuff happened. Essentially stuff happened. I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find the page in my book. I'm not going to show it because I can't show it on YouTube. But I'm looking for the page. So if you see me looking down and scrounging around and I'm not really saying anything, that's why. It's because I'm trying to find a specific page. No, it's not there. Okay, I passed it. Talking about predictions can sometimes be hard. Especially when you're using the manga, okay? You're using the manga. You're not actually using the anime, which is kind of one and one in all the same. Yeah, especially when they just copy and paste and change minor, very, very, very minor details. It's like, okay, why do I care to notice a difference if the the difference for the manga and the anime are so teeny tiny details? It's like of a change. Okay, I'm going off into a tangent here, but I was the only reason why I mentioned that is just because like it like imagine this picture. Stick with me here, okay? This has nothing to do with the predictions at all. Okay, going off into a tangent here, but don't mind me. Imagine this little picture, and then like there's like this little ant, okay, in the picture. That's like you have to like squint real hard to like look at it and to like see it and to really really notice the ant. Stick with me. And then you make the same drawing just without that ant. Why would I, as the artist that I am, why would I want to know the difference between the picture with the ant and picture without the ant? Like, to me, what would the difference even be if it's that small speck of a tiny, teeny, tiny detail change? Like, why would it matter, essentially? And the reason why I'm going off onto this tangent is just because I saw the anime and then I got to like a certain point. I think it was like season 4 or season 5. I think it was at that point. And then I'm like, I should read the book and pick it up. So then I pick up the manga and then I start reading the manga. And I feel like I'm watching the anime again. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so there's teeny tiny details here and there that I notice that was like different, but to me it's like, okay, why does that matter so much? And that's why I said that that's why I use the art metaphor thing. That's all I meant by that. I went off into a tangent. I said my point. Moving on back to my predictions, as I was saying, because like there's this plan essentially that Midoriya has because one of his students ended up being arrested. One of his classmates. Midoriya's not the teacher, but Midoriya comes up with this plan to apprehend the villain, and I have concerns. Now, I know that this is all fiction. I know this is all anime, it's manga. I'm not a weeaboo. I joke around here and there saying, oh, ha, ha, I'm a weeaboo. I'm not, okay? Yes, I made Sims and I made anime characters. I joke like that, being like, oh, I'm a weeaboo. Ha, ha, ha. I don't mean it like that, okay? Because I'm not. But I still have concerns on these fictional characters. Okay, I know these made up characters, but still, like Midoriya, and the his plan, his plot. I have concerns because um because I'm essentially thinking that All for One wanted this. All for One has this plan up his sleeve. He has all of his chess pieces all in place, and that Midoriya is just falling into his clutches. And yes, I've also said this in my other video, but I didn't go into further details in my other video. And yes, I also mentioned um I don't know how to pronounce his name. Yamamo, I think is how you pronounce it. I am not for sure. I'm not certain if that's how you pronounce his name. I call him by his hero name, which is Can't Stop Twinkling. So, Can't Stop Twinkling ended up being his classmate that got arrested with his parents, with his mom and dad, because they're working for All for One. And Midoriya is the target. And I, you know, and we all know Midoriya. Midoriya is the hero type. Like, I mean, yeah, and Midoriya has his own character development on his end, turning from zero to hero in my book, most definitely, and most certainly should be in everybody else's book because yeah, Midoriya is a fictional character that everybody kind of gives a hard time about. Essentially because Midoriya was always the whiner in the very beginning of My Hero Academia. And I mean, yeah, you got to start somewhere. That's what growth is all about. That's what character development's all about. And that's why Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya, is my favorite anime character, is because of his character arc. You know, he changes and grows and develops from a nobody to a hero. And, you know, it's just like I don't even recognize him in volume 33. Okay? I don't recognize Midoriya in that volume because he's not the same whiner crybaby anymore. um but I'm essentially just concerned that All for One wanted, because essentially All for One and Shigaraki somehow end up. Now it's not clear in the manga. I hadn't seen the anime version, so I don't know how it's exactly executed. I don't know how it's done. Um and I don't know if it's clear in the manga if if it's how it worked, how it was done. I don't know if they're going to reveal it later. They might because it's anime, it's manga. They might. But essentially, All for One and Shiraki's one in the same, but I don't know how. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. I don't know how. That's the question. I don't know how. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, but how? Why? If this was in my Anime Sins channel, which is something that I need to pick back up with um like the sin here, the anime playful sin here would be, how did All for One come out, you know? It- how did he come out of jail, essentially? That's what I meant. I didn't mean it any other way. um but yeah, that's essentially what I'm asking myself. I'm thinking it's like, okay, All for One was in jail the last time that we fans saw. So how did he become inside Shigaraki? And is it inside Shigaraki? Like, are they one in the same? Or is All for One, how do I put this? How do I word this? Is All for One like mentally inside Shigaraki, like an imaginary friend. But it doesn't appear like that because like there's like a flashback that happens in the manga that shows All for One and Shigaraki. And All for One moves a certain way and Shigaraki moves a certain way, and they're fighting this hero. The hero ends up not making it. But and I'm just because I'm reading this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, but how and why? Like it was like at the Void, like they showed All for One and Shirawaki at the Void, and All for One moved a certain way, but then it ended up being Shirawaki in the real world moving that certain way. So I'm just trying to piece together two and two and being like, okay, how did All for One end up out of jail? Number one, number two, like why? How? Okay, cool. Um, and I don't mean that in like an boring sense. No, no, I mean that in like I'm trying to wrap my head around like what exactly happened. And yeah, okay, I'll take it a step further. All for One is a character who has a lot of quirks, so he probably just you know had a quirk that's like Kiriguri's warping quirk, so he probably warped himself out of jail. But then, how would he then become Shigaraki? Because those two are still two separate characters. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. And maybe I shouldn't do that because maybe that's too hard. Like maybe I'm thinking too hard, you know? But because I'm an anime nerd and an anime fan, I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing, and I don't know how to wrap my head around it because I could be thinking too hard. Essentially, I could be thinking too hard about it. Um, but essentially, Shigaraki and All for One end up being one and the same, and I think that might be how All Might ends up dying in My Hero Academia. Because essentially what my predictions are is that because like event happens in 34 volume 34 causes plot B to happen for Midoriya to be like, okay, well, we're going to go out and we're going to get justice for Yamamo, if that's even how you pronounce his name. I just call him Can't Stop Twinkling. So Midoriya like gets rallies up all of his classmates. He rallies up his teacher, he rallies up everybody, and then he goes he goes to this plan. He's like, "Hey, okay, let's do this." And then that's the end of volume 34. And my predictions are, you know, as follows pretty much because I have notes on my phone that has the predictions. Okay, so my predictions that I've gone into more depth, more details about it. I think that All Might die by the hands of Tomoro Shigaraki. Um, and the reason why I say that is because, like, I think that it's set up where it's like All for One wants this plan to happen. He wants this plot to happen. Because All for One is a mastermind, like a man of a mastermind, and like through his plans of manipulation and his like even in the manga, like it showed like a tree, like a plot tree of like, oh, I can just take down or take out any character in anybody that's like everyone's disposable to me, is what All for One says in the manga. And then it shows like there's like this tree plan that's like, hey, if one plan fails, I can just go over to the another one, and then so on and so forth. So All for One is a madman with this mastermind because he is like a master at manipulation, and he's able to go from one plan to the next, and he's able to take out whoever it is that he needs to in order to make his plan a success. And it appears that All for One may have been very, 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 very successful in his plan so far in creating the dystopian world that he imagines. You know, he can just take quirks away and give quirks to, others that want quirks, you know. And in someone else's eyes, in the anime world of My Hero Academia, in someone else's eyes, that could be an uptopian, because it's like, oh well, I don't want these fangs, and then you go to All for One, and then All for One takes the fangs away so you can be quote unquote normal, and then give the fangs to someone else who wants the fangs. So in someone else's eyes, that could be an uptopian world. It's like, oh, okay, so you're helping these people in a way that's being a hero, in a way that's like removing a curse and then giving it someone else as a blessing. That, in a way, that perspective, oh, so and so is being a hero. But, and this is where it gets interesting, it's a dystopian world because he has all these puppets that will follow his orders because they did something. They did a favor to him. Now they owe him a favor, and that's exactly what happened to Can't Stop Twinkling and his parents. And I'm going to try to not say anything else about that, but basically that's why Can't Stop Twinkling ends up, in police custody in the anime. He ends up in police custody along with his mom and dad, and my predictions involve the death of his parents because All for One has this master, like he is a mastermind type of person. He's like he plans things and he knows things and he's just great at setting plans and great at doing things and like executing plans, okay? Executing set plans, and if a plan doesn't work, he can just execute and move on to the next plan. Quite literally execute. Um so that's what I was all I was trying to get on to about. Um so I basically think that All for One is going to find out, oh, you told on me, and he's gonna take out Can't Stop Twinkling, mom and dad's, you know. And Midoriya is gonna end up in a downward spiral, just like I said in my other video, but he's also gonna go down in that downward spiral with Can't Stop Twinkling. And they're both gonna kind of like dwell in sadness for a little bit, and then they're gonna rise back up and be better heroes and be better friends, perhaps. Because then they're gonna like grow together, and because I used to think that, oh, All Might's death is not good, but now I think differently because and I stated this in my other video, like I think differently than how I used to. On my very first video of my anime fan club channel, I might just want to take it down right now because my thoughts are way different now than they are back then. But my very first video on my anime fan club channel was, "Oh, All Might's gonna die. This is not good." Da, 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 da. But now my opinions and thoughts are different because I'm realizing this. All Might's death has to happen at some point in My Hero Academia, and I'm not saying that because I hate because I hate All Might. Um, I'm not saying that at all. All Might is actually one of my top favorite characters, so it would be very sad to see him go as a fictional anime character. But I still think that his death is necessary, and it's necessary because Midoriya still needs to grow and develop as the hero that he wants to become. Like he can't, like a bird doesn't learn how to fly just by sitting in a cage all day, and that's a metaphor that I'm using, but it's a metaphor I'm using to describe anime characters nonetheless, so it doesn't have much futile there, or futile, not the right word I wanted to say, um, fruition is what I wanted to say. But yeah, and like I have other evidence to kind of support this. Like in the manga, like um there's points in the manga whereas like all Midoriya is talking to like the how do you say he's talking to the predecessors predecessors. um but yeah, he's talking to the predecessors of One for All, um and he's you know discussing about the power and what's to come, um because that's might not be in this volume, but that's what they're discussing. They're discussing, hey, so the next power you might you know master or might unlock is this my quirk over here for One for All. And then they discussed, about Shigaraki, because Shigaraki is pretty major for One for All. They discussed it, and there is a blob in the void that Midoriya is in as he's speaking to these eight predecessors. Um, and that blob character is a yellow big blob, and it looks like All Might's slim version, if you will. And like he doesn't really speak, he doesn't really say anything. And my theory goes is that he can't speak because he is, well, more of a prediction. He is the spirit of All Might, and maybe if All Might dies, then he can actually speak in the predecessor's void that Midoriya goes through on an occasion. Because I mean, he is a holder for One for All, after all, so it would make sense that like he would be able to speak only after till he's dead, because all those predecessors has passed on. They have all moved on, to the afterlife of anime. In anime world terms, they're they're gone. You know, so their spirits are able to speak with Midoriya. And they do on an occasion. When Midoriya is asleep. So that's kind of my predictions for later volumes. It may not happen right away, but definitely later volumes that Midoriya would be able to speak to All Might after All Might, passes. And I think it might happen in this volume that I picked up. I'm not sure if it's volume 35, but my predictions are if it's not this volume, definitely in the next three volumes, All might go. And there is something that I was trying to how do I word this? I'm going off onto a tangent yet again. bear with me. There was something that I was wanting to work on that has to do with All Might as a character. It is it is a fan made parody that I created for All Might more specifically. And it is still in the kinks, it is still in the makings because I'm still working on it. But the reason why I brought this up is because I wanted this parody song to be out there for the viewings, for everyone to enjoy and for everyone to sing along and to laugh at and to like, because I wanted it out before All Might's death. And I don't know if I can meet that deadline because that deadline may have already passed. But we will see. We will see. And I can make that parody video at any time and point. Like, I don't need to make it right now. I don't need to post it right now because I still need to practice singing it or rapping it, number one. Number two, I need to actually memorize my own lyrics. So there's that. And then, and number three, My Hero Academia is going to be trending for a while. So I can post that video whenever. It is preferably like I want to create and finish that parody video preferably before All Might's death in the anime. But if it's probably not gonna end up happening. Probably not because I still need time to work on it. So there's that. And then so I had another idea because or like predictions basically. Um uh, Midoriya's plan being a bust because I really think that this is a trap. And I've briefly mentioned this, but I really think that All for One has all of his chess pieces right where he wants it to be, and he's just deploying this so that way Midoriya, like, it's a form of manipulation, if you will. Doing an action to get someone else to do something they want. That's and all for one, doing this is very, very smart in doing this. He's a madman for sure, but smart in knowing exactly how to get the pieces where he wants them to be and needs them to be, so that way Midoriya will be just under his clutches. And that's my predictions. Um, and then I also wrote down some predictions of like if if it's not a couple students, I think it would be several students that may be gravely injured due to Midoriya's plan at fault. Something happens on Midoriya's end, and he ends up with several students gravely injured. On top of that, you know that because that's my predictions. That's what I'm thinking. And then there's other parts that was like spoiled for me, but it creates new predictions for me. But I'm not going to discuss it because there were spoiled parts for me. So I'm not going to discuss it, and I'm not going to say it in this video because this is supposed to be like a predictions video. And yeah, it has spoilers because I talked about a lot that happened. Yeah, I talked about a lot that happened. I have a lot of spoilers in this video, but I just because I was talking about my predictions, and I was being like, oh, okay, so A, B, and then C to support A. and then that's pretty much all I was going into. So I'm not gonna get into the spoiler parts because that ruined bits and pieces of it. Like there was a scene that was kind of like spoiled for me that kind of is ruined for me, but it doesn't ruin My Hero Academia necessarily for me because My Hero Academia is still bossly awesome to me in my book. Um, but because that scene was specifically spoiled to me, I'm not going to spoil it for y'all because I don't want to ruin it for y'all. So this has been almost all hour. I only wanted to talk about this for like 20 minutes or so. I need to really work on not going on a tangent. Sometimes I go on a tangent just to make a point or prove something. That's literally it. Anyways, thank you all for watching and tuning into this live stream. Unleash the Beast.